How many knows that your world is different than my world? Your influence and sphere of influence is different than my influence that I have. The people that I connect with, the people that you connect with is different. And so he said, go into all the world and preach the gospel to every creature. God can and he will use anything to reach people. God can and will use anything to reach people that are far away from Jesus. Luke 5:1, verses 1 through 11. I'm not going to read all 11 verses. It says, one day as Jesus was preaching on the shores of the Sea of Galilee, also known as the Lake of Gennesaret, also known as the Sea of Tiberias. This lake is 13 miles long, 8 miles wide. There's 30 towns that surround the Sea of Galilee. It's surrounded by small mountains and hills all the way around the Sea of Galilee. And he says, great crowds pressed in on him to listen to the word of God. Verse 2, he says, he noticed 2 empty boats on the edge of the water's edge, for the fishermen had left them and were washing their nets. These fishermen did not fish like we fish today. They used nets. They used heavy nets that were weighted down with weights, and they would clean them during the day, and then they would fish at night. There was no way that they would fish during the day. The water would come up in the shallow parts of the lake during the nighttime, so they would fish at night and they would clean during the day. And at this time, Jesus is walking up to them. And they had caught no fish that day. How many's ever went fishing and caught no fish? Pretty frustrating, ain't it? They were frustrated. They were tired. I've been many times fishing and caught no fish. I've been there where all I've done is donate blood to the mosquitoes and catch a sunburn. Verse 3, he said, stepping into one of the boats, Jesus asked Simon, its owner, to push it out into the water. So he sat down in the boat and he taught the crowds from there. What was Jesus doing here? Jesus was sharing the gospel. He was preaching the gospel to these people. You know what Jesus knew? He knew that the sound would come off the water better and it would reach the audience. You know what Jesus was doing? He was using whatever he could find to preach the gospel. He knew that he could reach the thousands. He began to speak as he was out on the water, and it would bounce off the water. He knew the technology, even of his day, that he could do that. Can I tell you, we need to start using the technology of our hour to use it for the good of the glory of God. God can use anything if we'll allow him to use it, if we'll use it for good. How many say amen? Talked a little bit about this last week. I wanted to share it again this week. He'll use whatever. But Jesus used a common boat to share the gospel. Used a common, nothing special about this boat, nothing that was supernatural about this boat. But you know what he did? He used it for his pulpit. Can I tell you, God is wanting to use something in your life that you're like, it's ordinary, it's just mundane, it's just what it is. But you know what? God is saying, that's the pulpit. That's what I'm going to give you to share the gospel of Jesus Christ. Can I tell you, we need to look around and say, God, what are you wanting to use in my life? This is all that I have. But can I tell you, if we say, God, this is all I have, he will use it for his glory. Even if it's an ordinary boat, God will use those things in our life. He'll use it for a pulpit. If God can use a donkey to speak to Balaam, and if God can use a rooster to preach to Peter, how many knows that God can use anything he wants to bring someone to repentance? He can. He can use whatever he wants to preach to someone. Not only does God want to use what he wants, when he wants to use it, how he wants to use it, but listen to this, God will use our brokenness too. How many has ever felt like you've been broken? How many feels like it's times in your life that you have felt that you was thrown away? Didn't have a future. I can't go to church. I can't be around church people. You don't know how bad my past has been. You don't know what's happened in my life. You don't know the abuse. You don't know the pain. You don't know what's going on. And you know what? I have made a mess of my life. I've messed it up thoroughly. This reminds me of the story of the woman at the well. When Jesus said, I must go through Samaria today. Another Samaria story. I must go through Samaria. And he sat on the outskirts of the city of Samaria, and he sat at a well known as Jacob's well, and he sat there and he said, disciples, I want you to go into town, get us some food, get us some stuff that we need. And went on into town, and at noon, a woman shows up at the well. Most of the time, women did not come to the well at that time of day, and I've said this story many times. The reason why they would not come at that time of the day, it was very hot. They were carrying large pots. They were coming to get water to take it back into the city, and they would do that early in the mornings or late in the evenings. They would not do it in the middle of the day, but this woman showed up in the middle of the day because she was ashamed. She was embarrassed of her life. She was a throwaway. No one cares about me. I'm useless to society, is the way she felt, I'm sure. She showed up at noon that day in the heat of the day, but she didn't know who she was showing up to. She didn't know who she was showing up to that day. She was showing up to someone that was going to give her a drink of water that she would never thirst again. She thought she was coming for some natural water, but she found some spiritual water where you'll never thirst again. She was broken. She was misused. She was abused. He said, go tell your husband or go get your husband. She said, I don't have a husband. He said, I know. And the guy you're living with is the fifth guy you've been with. What a story. See, Jesus don't care where you're at right now. He don't care what's going on in your life at this moment. You know what he cares about? Your future. And he'll take your brokenness. He'll take you that you feel like you've been thrown away, that you're no good, that you can't do anything. And I don't know who I'm speaking here to this morning, but God is speaking to someone. He'll take your brokenness and he will use it for his glory. I've seen it so many times in my life of growing up in church. People that come into the house of God, and you're like, man, can God do anything in their life? I'm like, man, I don't know if God can do that. Man, wow, that's a big ask. Can you change them, God? And I've seen God rearrange their life. I've seen God take them from where they was at and bring them to a place of redemption. Thank God for my dad back here that pastored and preached for 36 years. I honor him today, him and my mother, for preaching the gospel and sharing. And I've seen it multiple times as growing up in the church where my dad and my mother would love on people that was unlovable. Our home when we was growing up was a home that was open to anybody. I cannot remember many years of my life living just with our immediate family. We always had someone living with us. That shows the heart of someone that says, hey, I don't care where you're at. I don't care your brokenness. I don't care about that. I want to share the love of Jesus to you. And I've seen God take people from where they was at. You know where they're at? Some of you sitting in this room today. Some of you sitting in this room and you're looking a lot better than you did back then. You got a smile on your face. Some of you have served in high levels of positions in this church because God can take anything and he can make it great. He can take your brokenness and he can mend it again in your life. See, God wants to take anything that will allow him to take and he will use it for his glory. Listen to what she said in John 4:28. So the woman left her water jar. She didn't care about the water no more. She left her water jar and went away into the town and said to the people, come see a man who told me all that I ever did. Could this be the Christ? Can this be the Christ? And they went out of the town and were coming to him. I mean, they come out of the city Because of this one woman, God used the brokenness of her life to win a city. The Bible goes on and says that Jesus went into that city and preached many days. Many were saved, many were healed. Why? Because of one woman in her brokenness, in her situation, in her being scattered. God said, I'm going to use it to preach the gospel to someone. This morning, I ask you, bring your pain, bring your history, bring your brokenness, bring all that you are, and see what God can do with it. How many was just say, I'm going to bring it all to Him. I'm just going to surrender it all to Him. And I'm going to say, God, whatever you want to use me for, I'll let you use. It's time that I get out of the four walls of this church. It's time that the church leaves the building. And God, I know that you can use me, because I know that some of you sitting in this room have said this through this series. Lord, you can't use me. You can't use me. But can I tell you, God is saying He can. And not only can, He will. He will use you. If you'll bring your stuff, if you bring all the stuff that you've got and say, God, here it is. Use it. If He can use a donkey, if He can use a rooster, if He can use me, I'm going to put it there. If He can use me, I know God can use you to share the gospel of Jesus Christ.